All right, here we are at question 46 in chapter 9. There are actually 4 in 46, A, B, C, and D, but we'll just do A together to get the idea. The question is asking you to identify which of the reactants is the limiting reactant, which is in excess, and what are the masses of each product in grams. So it's a good thorough question. They give you in A, they give you the unbalanced reaction. So all the formulas are there, but the reaction is not balanced. And they tell you that you have exactly 5.00 grams of each reactant. I'm just going to put this down now. The H2SO4 is aqueous, that's sulfuric acid, and I just wanted to make sure you understand that it's 5.00 grams of the reactant. So even if H2SO4 is in water, we're talking about the reactant, not the solvent that doesn't participate. So first thing you should do is to balance this reaction. This one is a little bit tricky. You probably might do some back and forth. If you didn't balance it, yeah, I should have given you a warning. It's too bad. Maybe this is a good practice to balance, and I just realized now I've shown you the balanced reaction, but don't forget to do some practice in balancing chemical reactions. Some of them are tricky, and you learn ways of doing things of balancing that are efficient. Anyway, so there's the balanced reaction. It is an unwritten 1 in front of the sulfur, 2 in front of the H2SO4. The coefficients are 3 and 2 respectively for the products, sulfur dioxide and water. So I have 2 reactants. I want to know which one is the limiting reactant. And that means which one of these 2 will deplete first, will run out first. And if you're cooking and you run out of one of your ingredients, well, it's going to limit what you're producing. And same thing here. So the method that we're going with, there are 2 methods in your textbook. This one will always work, and this is the one that I instruct. So as I was going to say pretend or assume, but if sulfur is the limiting reagent, if it were, how much product would form? Let's calculate it. And then underneath, if sulfuric acid, the other reagent, were the limiting reagent, how much product would form? And you can see here that we've gone through the calculations and selected that reactant that produces the lesser amount of product as the limiting reagent. Now think about it, why that makes sense to do so. If it is the reactant that runs out first, wouldn't it, and the other one is in excess, and you're using that reactant to determine how much product, wouldn't it make sense therefore that the one that is in there in the least amount according to the reaction is going to produce the least amount of product, right? So just a note on the calculations here, we're doing conversions, lots of conversions. So if sulfur is the limiting reagent, I take my mass of sulfur, I convert it to moles of sulfur. That's the molar mass of sulfur. This many moles of sulfur will produce how many moles of SO2 if I take this conversion factor from my balanced reaction, that 3 moles of SO2 are produced for every 1 mole of S consumed. That's what that's telling me. And my answer is in moles of sulfur dioxide. So grams of S cancel, mole of S cancel, left with moles of sulfur dioxide. Now I know they're asking me for the mass, but right now I'm just trying to figure out which one is limiting. So I want to leave it in moles. Okay. Then I have ditto marks because I'm getting lazy. 5 grams of sulfur times the same thing, 1/32. But this time I'm going to multiply by my conversion factor that determines the corresponding amount of water that's produced if I start with this much sulfur and it's limiting. So I know that 2 moles of water are produced for every 1 mole of sulfur consumed, and again, the 2 back to the 1. And I have 0.312 moles of water. Now, if the sulfuric acid were the limiting reagent, 5 grams of sulfuric acid, convert to moles of H2SO4, use the balanced equation where it tells me that 3 moles of SO2 are formed when this many moles, 2 specifically, of sulfuric acid are consumed. So there I have 3 to 2. And I have this many moles of SO2 produced. A lot less. See, there's a 0 after the decimal place, and a lot less moles of water. So I've circled it. This is the smaller amount of product that forms. This tells me that sulfuric acid is the limiting reagent. If that's so, the other reagent, which is sulfur, must be there in a quantity more than enough, which we call excess. So it means that after the product is formed, I will not have any H2SO4 left over. That was limiting. It means that it ran out. It ran out first. It ran out. It actually did run out. Yeah, I'm just realizing that we say which one runs out first. It doesn't mean that the sulfur runs out second. It's not going to run out at all. It's going to actually have some left over. And there's another question in the ones that I've posted that shows you how to calculate how much of something is left over. Not going to complicate this question further. So the sulfur is in excess, the sulfuric acid is limiting, the amount of moles produced is there of SO2 and H2O, so both products, and then, wrong direction, I want to calculate the mass of each of those products based on those numbers of moles. So I take my 0.0765 one at a time, the moles of sulfur dioxide, molar mass of sulfur dioxide converting to grams. Same thing for water. This many moles of water is produced. Convert it using the molar mass of water to the mass of water, 0.919 grams produced. So those are the masses produced of each product, and there you have it. That's that. So you can use this as a model to practice with the other ones in that question 46 at the end of chapter 9.